event is organized by the 26,000-member independent Hewlett-Packard Alumni Association, operated by former employees who volunteer their time, not endorsed or supported by HP. We help each other with life after HP. If you know someone who is leaving or has recently left HP, HP Inc., or Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, our website has a checklist developed by HPA members of things they need to do as soon as they know they are leaving and in the following few weeks. We're at hpalumni.com. WebEx facilities today are courtesy of the First Tech Federal Credit Union.
On behalf of First Tech Federal Credit Union, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you that have helped us grow to the 7th largest credit union in the country. From our start as the HP Credit Union, we're now lucky enough to work with companies across the technology spectrum, including Cisco, Tektronix, Microsoft, and Intel. If you or a family member work for one of our many partner companies, or if you're a member of the HPAA, you're already eligible for membership with First Tech. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know how we can serve your financial needs.
Thank you, Scott Hamaguchi. Welcome, HP current employees, alumni, and guests to our Social Security webinar. I'm Barbara Madden, Personal Financial Advisor with Ameriprise, ex-HP, and your moderator. Today we're very lucky to have Rob Pepper, Public Affairs with Social Security.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. My name is Rob Pepper. I'm a Public Affairs Specialist with Social Security Administration. I've been with them for 35 years now. So the information I have for you today is updated through the year 2016. We do have changes on Social Security on a regular basis. Usually it's published to our website in the month of December of each year, after we get our marching orders from Congress, so to speak, if there are any changes. So if you want additional information on the newest updates, that would be probably in the month of December, and that would give you the information for 2017. It would be updates for 2017. The presentation I'm going to provide to you today will give you an overview of Social Security and a little bit of information on Medicare. So without further ado, I'm going to go to our first slide, which indicates that that a lot of people are actually receiving benefits from Social Security. We have currently over 60 million people that receive benefits from the Social Security program, and we always like to point out the fact that Social Security is not just a retirement program, although it is by far our largest program. It is a social insurance package. So in addition to the retirement benefit, there is also a disability insurance benefit for workers who become disabled, and a survivor insurance benefit, usually for when a spouse or parent dies. So it is, as a person does make their contribution to Social Security, you're actually contributing to 3 funds: the Retirement, Disability, and Survivor Insurance Fund. As you prepare for retirement, just be aware of the fact that Social Security was never intended to be your only source of income in retirement. I think most of you are in a pretty good situation as far as that's concerned. But for the average retiree who receives a Social Security benefit, Social Security will probably represent about 40% of their income in retirement. And here we're showing the overall average benefit for Social Security retirement check in the year 2016 is about $1,341. So that's just kind of an overall average as far as people who have contributed to Social Security during their lifetimes. The very bottom of Social Security is the foundation on which you build on. You also need a pension and savings, so that was our 3-legged stool philosophy. If you have a stool with 3 legs, one leg with Social Security was for Social Security, the other 2 were pensions and savings. Now, because there's so few pensions out there, we're calling Social Security a foundation on which people can build on. If you do have a pension available to you, you're really in a fortunate situation because most private employers no longer do that for their employees. Other sources of income in retirement are IRAs that you can contribute to during your working years. It'll provide you some monthly benefits in retirement. More and more people are mentioning they may want to work in retirement, do some part-time work or some consulting to supplement their income in retirement. Your own personal savings will be important, and then there are a lot of insurance programs and investment programs that you can contribute to during your working years that will provide you a monthly income in retirement. The Social Security statement was something we used to provide to people automatically starting in 1996. it was being sent to over actually 165 million people over the age of 25. This statement is no longer going out to you automatically, so what we're asking for now is that you go to the Social Security website at socialsecurity.gov and create your own online My Social Security statement. Our information, by the way, online is available in English, Spanish, and 15 other languages. In addition to the Social Security statement, which gives you estimates of your benefits at 62, full retirement age, and age 70, the statement will also give you estimates of your disability benefits and survivor insurance benefits, and the statement gives you all of the earnings that you have contributed to Social Security during your working career. So it's a very important document for people to make sure that all their earnings are being reported correctly as far as that statement's concerned. If you do see an error, the sooner you let Social Security know about some earnings that are not appearing on your Social Security statement, you'd want to let us know so that we can correct your Social Security earnings record. I did also want to mention the Social Security Online Retirement Estimator. Part of the reason for that is this is one of our most popular sites. What it lets you do is not only get estimates of your benefits at age 62 and full retirement age, it'll let you pick any age of retirement that you would like to select from age 62, which would be early retirement, up until the maximum benefits payable would be as if you waited until age 70. So with the Retirement Estimator, you can pick any year of retirement that you're considering retiring benefits and get a pretty good estimate of what that benefit would be. And it also lets you customize it by changing the estimates in your, as far as your work history is concerned. Maybe you would like to stop working at age 55, but you don't want to collect your benefits until 66. So between 55 and 66, you could enter in zero earnings and you get a more accurate estimate of what your benefit would be. You could also put in maybe you're going from full-time work to part-time work, from $100,000 a year down to $20,000 a year, something like that, and put $20,000 a year from 55 to 66, and get a more accurate estimate that way. So it is a facility. You just go to the Social Security website at socialsecurity.gov, type in your name, your Social Security number, your date of birth, place of birth, and mother's maiden name. That's all the information we need in order to associate you with your Social Security earnings record. However, you're not going to see the same information that's provided on your statement. It will acknowledge the fact that it is you requesting this information, but the statement is the one that gives you all of your earnings and it's posted to the Social Security earnings record. The statement just allows you to do that, a variation in your future income and different ages of retirement that you'd like to select. This would be a sample then of someone who did actually go online and select the Retirement Estimator and said, well, maybe I'll consider retiring at age 64, and it gives them the estimate at age 64. It also gives the estimate of what the person could receive at age 70 if they continued working, at age 62, if they took it as early as possible, which is age 62, and their full retirement age benefit, in this case, it's age 67. So this person must be born after 1960, because anyone born after 1960, age 67 is their full retirement age. So it's a real useful tool, and again, it's on the Social Security website. It's called the Retirement Estimator. As far as filing for benefits, our website has a benefit section under, actually clicking under benefits, and there's a drop-down menu. For retirement, you would select retirement. For spousal benefits, disability benefits, again, disability. And we also have a Medicare application online. So all those applications are available to you on the Social Security Estimator. And this would just be a sample. If you were to use our online system, you would put in your name, Social Security number, male, female, date of birth, and then click on Next. And you just keep clicking Next until you get through the application. You would submit it. It does go to your local Social Security office. If they have any questions, they would contact you. And if you have questions, they would provide you with a person who's going to be processing your claim. As far as actually calculating the benefit, just kind of wanted to give you a general idea for the calculation, because a lot of people get confused as far as knowing how much of their earnings record are being considered in the calculation. And I think it's easiest to say that we use all the earnings that you have ever had under Social Security are going to be considered in the calculation. If you had 40 years worth of earnings, all 40 years would be considered. We would index those earnings for inflation and drop out the 5 low years. However, if you had only 20 years worth of earnings, all 20 years would be considered, but we would also average in 15 years worth of zero in the calculation of the benefit. So the more years you have toward the 35, the more substantial your retirement benefit should be. In each year, there is a limit on how much a person has to pay in Social Security taxes each year. And that limit, again, is counted toward the calculation of the benefit. So we're showing here in the year 2016, the maximum taxable amount for Social Security is $118,500. So that means if a person earned more than $118,500 in the year, they would stop paying the Social Security tax, currently 6.2%, once they reach that threshold of $118,500. You notice that last year, the maximum taxable amount for Social Security was the same. This is kind of unusual because usually there is some kind of cost of living increase in Social Security, and then the maximum taxable amount for the following year would go up. But because there was no cost of living increase for people currently receiving Social Security, the maximum taxable amount stayed the same. It's the same in 2015, as it is now in 2016. And the very bottom just shows you kind of the estimate of the maximum benefit that a person could receive. I gave you kind of the overall average benefit, about $1,400, but the maximum benefit, this would be for a worker who contributed 35 years at maximum earnings, reached full retirement age in the year 2016, which is currently age 66. Then the maximum benefit payable for that particular individual would be $2,639. That kind of gives you an idea of the maximum, and you could compare, your benefit, average benefit versus the maximum benefit, just to, kind of see, how you fall in that particular situation. As far as when to begin your benefits, this is really one of the most important strategies. I know we talk about strategies that people can have as far as filing for their Social Security benefit. So it's kind of up to you when you want to start the benefit. What's important to remember is that when you do start it, that's pretty much the benefit that you're going to continue to receive. You can elect to receive it as early as age 62, and that would be a reduced benefit. That's kind of the maximum reduction. If you waited till full retirement age, you get what we call 100% of the benefit, which would be a full benefit at full retirement age, and that would be the month, currently the month people born between 43 and 54, the month they turn their full retirement age would be the month of age 66, and that's when you get 100% of the benefit. You can also receive additional credits under Social Security by delaying your benefit beyond the age of full retirement, and the benefit will increase up to the age of 70. So if your full retirement age was age 66, where you're eligible for 100% of the benefit, but you don't take it until a year later at age 67, the benefit would increase by 8%. You could actually continue to do that for an additional 3 years, so a 4-year total would be, instead of 100% of the benefit, 132% of the benefit. It sounds attractive, but in actuality, there are not a lot of people that take advantage of delaying their retirement up to age 70, but it is an option you have available, and it actually is one of the strategies that you have. It's up to you when you want to select to start receiving your benefit. Any month that you would like to receive it, that's the month that you can start receiving the benefit after age 62. I've also had a question from people in this situation where they do take it early. What happens if it's not working out for them and they find out they really need to continue working and they'd like to stop the benefit? You do have kind of a 1-year Social Security do-over, whereas if you change your mind within the first year and repay any money that you received during that year, you could start your benefit at a future date, let's say full retirement age, without any reduction in the benefit. But you can only do it for up to 1 year and only one time. This is just showing you that there has been a change in full retirement age. Full retirement age has been, or was age 65 for most people. Maybe you remember your parents had age 65 for their full retirement age, or your grandparents. But that would be people who were born prior to 1937. In 1983, there was actually a change in the Social Security amendments that changed the age of full retirement, and it did pass into law in 1983. I actually got a bipartisan commission together, headed by Alan Greenspan, that made several changes in the Social Security law, and one of the changes was to change full retirement age. So although it did pass into law in 1983, it didn't affect people until 25 years later. So I'm assuming if there is another change in what they consider to be full retirement age, it probably won't affect people until 20 or 25 years later. If that's the case, you can pretty much say if you're in your late 40s or 50s, you're kind of tied to this chart. So if you're born between 43 and 54, age 66 is your full retirement age. Starting a person born in 1955, for full retirement age, they'd need to be 66 in 2 months, and a 2-month increase per year until anyone born 1960 or later, their full retirement age is age 67. Another thing about the Social Security law that people aren't aware of, but usually when they start benefits, is that if they want to continue working, it's going to have effect on the Social Security benefit that they elected to collect if they elected to collect it early. And these amounts, again, do generally change on a yearly basis, but because there was no cost of living increase in 2015, the figures are the same for 2016. So if you elect to take your Social Security benefit and you're under full retirement age and you'd like to collect your benefits and work, in the year 2016 you can only earn $15,720 without affecting the benefit that you're collecting early. If you earn over that limit, $1 out of every 2 would either be withheld from your checks, or you would be overpaid and have to pay it back at the end of the year. And this would be from, again, as early as age 62 up until you reach the year of full retirement age. In the year you reach full retirement age, let's say in June of 2016, you were going to be 66. So in that year that you're going to turn 66, we're only going to consider your earnings from January through May, and then you could have earned income of up to $41,880 without affecting the benefit that you're collecting early. If you earn over that limit, then $1 out of every 3 would be either withheld, or you would be overpaid and have to pay it back at the end of the year. But then in the month of June, when you turn full retirement age, there's no longer a limit on your earnings. So at that point, you could work and earn as much as you wanted and still collect your Social Security benefits. So that's another option you do have available at full retirement age, to go ahead and keep working and collect your Social Security benefits. Just be aware there will be some tax consequences if you make that decision, because you'll have additional income and it is subject to federal income tax. The earnings that we're counting towards the earnings test are only gross wages from work or net earnings from self-employment. We're not counting your pensions, IRAs, 401ks, dividends, interest, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, unemployment, or any other income that's not from work or net earnings from self-employment. So that's one thing that you need to be aware of as far as the earnings test is concerned. We're only looking at work you do as an employee or earnings from self-employment, your net earnings from self-employment. As far as other people receiving benefits on your Social Security account, if you do have a spouse and he or she is at least age 62 or older, your spouse is potentially eligible for benefits on your Social Security earnings record. Generally, if they worked and they have their own benefit, then you would only be paid a benefit as a spouse if that was a higher amount. There is an exception to that, and I'll mention that after I finish this page. But Most people are potentially eligible as a spouse to receive benefits on the worker's account as long as they're 62 or older. If you had a mother or father with child in their care and the youngest child was under the age of 16, the mother or father caring for the child could receive benefits until the youngest child turns age 16. If you were married to someone and there was a duration of marriage of 10 years or longer and you were age 62, you're potentially eligible for receive Social Security benefits on your former spouse's account as long as you haven't remarried and as long as you don't have a higher benefit on your own account. In the spousal section, one thing that, although there were numerous changes or a couple of changes in the law due to the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015, one of the really strategies that they took away and are no longer eligible for is the file and suspend strategy, and that was really only for people who were full retirement age prior to April of 2016, which would be currently age 66. They could file and suspend their benefit, not collect it in order to get delayed retirement credits, and if they did have a spouse 62 or older, he or she could start receiving benefits on that account. Due to the change in the law, that is no longer available. The worker can elect not to take his or her benefit, but the spouse is unable to receive a benefit on the worker's account only when the worker starts receiving a Social Security benefit. So if the worker decided to delay it until age 70, and if the spouse was eligible for benefits on that account, he or she couldn't receive it until they actually started receiving the benefit. One of the other things that they did change that's still in effect for some people is the restricted application. And the restricted application means that if you would like to continue working beyond your full retirement age and receive benefits, the 50% that we're mentioning here on the spouse's account, you can do that, but you can only do that if you turned age 62 prior to January 2nd of 2016. So for those of you who are not 62 yet, that option is also no longer available to you. If you were age 62 by January 2nd of 2016, then the option you have available there is to file a restricted application, meaning once you're full retirement age, which for most people is currently age 66, you can restrict your application to spousal benefits only, receive 50% of your spouse's benefit if he or she is receiving that benefit, and you delay yours until you're age 70, and then switch over to your own account with the maximum benefit payable because you get those 4 years of delayed retirement credits. So again, that option is still available, but only available for people who turned age 62 on or before January 2nd of 2016. Another benefit is for the children. If the worker is eligible for a benefit and has a child under the age of 18, the children can get paid benefits, which would be 50% of the worker's benefits, as long as they're under the age of 18. We can actually continue to pay them after age 18 if they're still full-time in high school, but if they haven't graduated high school by age 19, the benefits stop anyway. So that's a maximum of age 19. Usually it's age 18 or high school graduation. And we also have benefits available for disabled children. So if the worker had a child who became disabled prior to age 22, and that child is unmarried, even if they're an adult now, they're potentially eligible for 50% of the worker's benefit as long as the child did establish that disability prior to age 22. The divorced spouse's benefit is something that we usually get a lot of questions about in retirement seminars, so I thought I'd include this additional information on it. It does require a full duration of marriage of 10 years to your former spouse. You cannot be currently married in order to be potentially eligible for that benefit. And you can only receive benefit on the ex-spouse's account, with that exception that we mentioned of the restricted application, as long as that benefit is less than or lower than your own benefit, or your own benefit is lower, the 50% is lower than what you could receive on your own account. What we do in actuality is usually pay your spouse your own benefit based on your own work history, And then if any additional amount is due as you file for the spouse's claim, then we would just give you the additional amount on your spouse's or former spouse's account. You notice it also says that widows or widowers can remarry after age 60. So what that basically means, if you did have a former spouse and you don't remarry prior to age 60, once you're age 60, if you're eligible for benefits on that former spouse's account, you could remarry and still continue that benefit. But if you did it prior to age 60, you would no longer be eligible for benefits on your former spouse's account. Again, it doesn't matter if the worker has remarried, the divorced spouse is still eligible for that benefit, and the worker's remarriage does not reduce the ex-spouse's benefit or the new spouse's benefit. So those benefits amount could be the same for the former spouse and for the current spouse. The survivor insurance benefit is kind of a family benefit where we're able to pay widows or widowers benefits. You notice on the side it says 71.5% through 100%. Basically, if you become a widow or widower after your full retirement age, you're potentially eligible for 100% of what your former spouse was receiving. So at age 60, if you did it as early as 60, you would get a reduced amount, but you could continue to receive that reduced amount. And in the case of someone who's also insured on their own record, they could start their own benefit as a widow or widower as early as age 60 and save their own benefit until, let's say, they're age 70. At that time, it may be a much higher benefit, and then switch over to their own benefit at age 70. The widow or widower could actually do that at any time after age 62, because you have to be 62 to receive benefits on your own account. So you're 62 or older, you could switch over to your own benefit at any time. But just be aware that you are potentially eligible for that benefit, and if you don't use it, you basically lose it, because if it ends up that your full retirement age, your own benefit is higher than what you could receive as a widow or widower, then you don't receive anything on your former spouse's account. Again, a mother or father with child under care under the age of 16, they can get a benefit, and widows or widowers, divorced widows or widowers can also qualify. So again, it is a much higher benefit because it's not the 50%, but you're potentially, if you're full retirement age, to receive up to 100% of your former spouse's benefit, Social Security benefit. Children can also receive benefits just like in the life case, but instead of 50%, it could be as much as 75%. And disabled children, again, can receive benefits on their parents' account. The one other program I mentioned briefly was the Disability Insurance Benefit Program. So if you become disabled prior to your full retirement age, even if you took early retirement, let's say you filed for your regular Social Security retirement benefit at age 62 and became disabled at 64 or 65, you would still want to file for Social Security disability benefits because your benefit would be higher than what it was at early retirement. Where it would no longer apply is if once you're full retirement age, if you become disabled, there's no advantage to disability at that point. Generally, disability benefits have to be a medical condition so severe that expects you from doing what they call substantial work, which is approximately $1,050 a month or more, or is expected to result in death. On this slide, it's actually showing it's 1,130 or more. It would be considered substantial gainful activity. But if you're not able to do that work and you do have a condition that's preventing you from working, then a disability claim would be appropriate. Just be aware that it has to be a condition that's expected to last a year or longer or result in death. When Social Security does make that determination, they're going to consider your age, your education, and your work experience. And the very bottom shows you something that's important about disability, and that is that you not only have to be fully insured, which means you have to have at least 10 years of work under Social Security in order to be insured. For disability, you also have to be currently insured. And the way you're currently insured is from the date that we establish your disability, we would go back 10 years, and you need to have worked in that 5 out of that 10-year period. So where this may become important for a retiree is, let's say you retire from work and don't want to do any work after age 55, make no additional contributions to Social Security, and then at 61 you become disabled. Well, between 61 and 51, you didn't work in 5 out of that 10-year period, so although you may be disabled, you're not currently insured and you wouldn't be entitled to that disability benefit. You'd have to wait until you're 62 to get a reduced retirement benefit. So just be aware, from the time you stop working, your disability protection only continues for 5 years after that time. And again, once you're full retirement age, there's no advantage to disability because the payment you're receiving will just continue to be the same. Our disability claim is also an online application. So more and more, as time goes by, we have more online services available to you. So retirement, disability, spousal benefits, and Medicare benefits are now all currently online applications. I did kind of give you a brief overview of Medicare, although Social Security is not Medicare. There's generally some questions about Medicare, and Social Security does have a role in Medicare, and that is basically determining your eligibility and enrolling you in the Medicare program and getting you that Medicare card. So who can get Medicare? Well, anyone. Most people 65 or older are eligible for Medicare. You would need to have that at least 10 years worth of earnings in order to be insured, but you can also get that insured coverage through a spouse. So even if you never worked, if your spouse worked and has their 10 years or more under Social Security, you could get Medicare through your spouse. You do, in most cases, need to be 65 or older, but if you are receiving Social Security disability benefits after receiving disability checks for 24 months, 2 years, then you become eligible for Medicare also with a disability, but there is that 2-year waiting period. If you have one of the 2 conditions, permanent kidney failure, also called end-stage renal disease, usually dialysis is involved, or ALS, also called Lou Gehrig's disease, you're eligible for Medicare after being diagnosed with one of those 2 specialized conditions for 2 months. And again, just brief overview of Medicare. We don't have a lot of detail for you on that. We usually refer you at the very bottom of the screen to Medicare at the Medicare website, and the Medicare also has an 800 number. Their 800 number, by the way, is open 24/7, so you can contact Medicare at any time, whereas the Social Security website is just 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. But Medicare has different parts to it. The parts most frequently referred to are Part A, which is your hospital insurance, covers most of your inpatient hospital expenses. Should you become hospitalized, then Medicare should cover most of your hospitalization expenses up to 60 days. There is a deductible for the up to 60 days in the hospital, and that's currently $1,288. I skipped over the no monthly premium as long as you have your Social Security, 40 Social Security credits, which is important. There's no additional premium for Medicare Part A as long as you have your Social Security credits, your 40 Social Security credits, or if you get them for a spouse or a former spouse, then there's no additional payments as far as the premiums are concerned. There is that deductible. You notice after 60 days in the hospital, instead of a period deductible, it goes to a daily deductible. And 61 through 90 days is $322 per day, and more than 90 days, it's $644 as far as the daily deductible is concerned. And 91 to 150 is when you start using up a lifetime reserve. So hopefully you'll get discharged before you get up to that 150 days of hospitalization. The Part B is the supplemental part of Medicare. However, I always caution people who have health insurance carriers in retirement that most of those health insurance carriers, for you to get eligibility for their program, require you to have both A and B of Medicare in order to be covered under their insurance plan. So although the Medicare Part B does have a monthly premium, just be aware if you don't take the Medicare Part B and pay that premium monthly, that you may not be able to have your health insurance carrier with any insurance carrier that you would like to select. Most of them do require that you have A and B of Medicare. It's showing here that it covers 80% of your doctor's bills and outpatient expenses. There's a yearly deductible of $166 in approved charges, but the Medicare Part B is the one with the monthly premiums. So just be aware, for new Medicare beneficiaries in the year 2016, the monthly premium for Part B for most Medicare beneficiaries is $121.80. The Part D is a prescription drug plan. Actually, this is kind of a recent program of Medicare. It started in the year 2006, so it's relatively new, and it was supposed to help people have some additional coverage for prescription drugs. And they note here that the coverage the major portion of prescription drug coverage for most Medicare beneficiaries. There are premiums, usually deductibles and copays, and they do vary by plan. And just kind of a general note here in California, there are probably over 38 different plans on the Part D prescription drug plan. So you really need to kind of research it with the Medicare website. There's also a health insurance counseling agency that if you do go to the Medicare.gov, they'll refer you to that, and you can actually talk to a counselor for no charge that will, with you the drugs that you use and the different things that you need or think you may need, that they are able to kind of counsel you on the best plan available to you based on the premiums, copays, and the cost. The Part D, they do say it is a optional plan. So if you do have a health insurance carrier in retirement that has a prescription drug plan, that they're willing to say that their plan is as good as or better than Medicare Part D, then it's possible that you don't need to enroll in a Part D plan. It could be something optional that you don't really need, but you need to check with your health insurance carrier in retirement to make sure that that's the case. So again, I said in the Medicare Part B premium, most people pay $121.80. However, Congress passed a law saying that high-income beneficiaries should be able to pay a higher Medicare Part B premium. My understanding is on this is that if you pay the base premium of $121.80, the value of that coverage is about 25%. You're paying about 25% of the value of the coverage. It's being subsidized by the federal government by the additional 75%. So Congress, in all their wisdom, said high-income beneficiaries should be able to pay a higher Medicare Part B premium. So in order to make that determination, if you're a high-income beneficiary, they're going to look at the modified adjusted gross income on your federal income tax return, the income that you had 2 years prior to the current year, and if it's in excess of $85,000 as an individual or $170,000 as a couple, you could fall into one of those 4 higher Medicare Part B income premium categories. And that would continue as long as you continue to have that higher income. You'll notice that we are looking at income that you had 2 years prior to the current year to make the computation. Social Security is the agency that collects your Medicare Part B premium. So if you have what they call a life-changing event, where you no longer have the income in the current year that you did 2 years ago, you would make that report to Social Security, bring in some kind of documentation of an income due to a life-changing event. And they suggest some life-changing events here, something like divorce, death of a spouse, retirement, or some kind of natural disaster, where in the current year you don't have the income you did 2 years ago. You would let Social Security know and hopefully would be able to modify your Part B premium. As far as signing up for Part B, it is important that you sign up timely. If you don't sign up timely, you may be subject to premium penalties. The premium penalties could be as much as 10% per year for every 12-month period you were eligible for filing for Part B and didn't take it. So most people do enroll at the initial enrollment period, which is 3 months before you're age 65, the month you turn age 65, and up to 3 months after. By the way, if you're already receiving your Social Security checks, you decide to collect Social Security before you were age 65, when you turn age 65, because you're collecting your regular Social Security checks, the Social Security Administration will automatically entitle you to A and B of Medicare. So in that case, you really wouldn't have to do anything. You're automatically entitled. You'd still need to consider that Part D prescription drug plan if you were interested in that. The special enrollment period is generally for people who are working after the age of 65, and they really don't need a Medicare Part B plan because they're still under their employer group health plan. So if you're still working under an employer group health plan, you are able to postpone Medicare Part B, and you could extend that even further. If you've retired but your spouse is covering you under his or her employer group health plan, you can continue to postpone the Part B coverage. Why would you want to postpone? Well, you don't want to pay that $121.80 a month if you have an employer group health plan. So that's called the special enrollment period. The general enrollment period is between, it's between January and March of each year. The coverage doesn't start until July, and the main reason people sign up for Medicare Part B at that time is they've either neglected to sign up for it timely, or they decided they didn't want it when they were initially offered it, or initially should have signed up for it and changed their mind. So that's when you get subject to these premium penalties. You can, if you didn't sign up timely, if you weren't under the initial enrollment period, no longer under the special enrollment period, then you can only sign up between January and March. The coverage doesn't start until July, and that's when you may be subject to a 10% premium penalty for every 12 months you could have had Part B and didn't sign up for it. Social Security benefits, as far as the taxability is concerned, about a third of the people in the United States currently who receive Social Security have to pay some income tax on their benefits. Again, we're talking about federal tax here. There's also maybe state tax on your Social Security benefit. Some states do tax your Social Security. I'm coming to you from California, and California actually is one of the states that don't tax your Social Security income. But the federal government does tax your Social Security. At the end of each year, Social Security Administration will send you a Form 1099, which gives you all the income that you received during the year from your Social Security, and you use that statement to help you complete your federal income tax return. So we do provide you with that information. If you lose it or can't find it, you can actually get a replacement online. So if you use our online services, register for your account, you can get a replacement 1099 online should you lose it. The very bottom shows you the federal tax withholding is optional, and what that means is that if you decide that you don't like having to pay additional tax on your Social Security at the end of the year, you'd prefer that it was taken out of your benefit on a monthly basis, then you can request it through Social Security as an additional form you would complete for that. And you can find the form on the Social Security website, socialsecurity.gov, under our form section. So just click on the form and you'll be able to get the form for having us do withholding on your Social Security benefit on a monthly basis, so you can avoid having a big tax hit at the end of the year. One other thing that I would like to mention that I should have mentioned in the Medicare section is that if you would like to sign up for Part B in the special enrollment period, let's say you're already 65, you're still working, you're covered by an employer group health plan, but you do retire and you would like the Part B coverage, that form is also available on the Social Security website under our form section. So you click under Forms, and there's the Request Part B of Medicare. So you complete that form. Most people, they do complete it in the month of retirement, so the following month they do have coverage under Social Security. And this kind of shows you, just kind of giving you an idea of the tax amount from federal income tax return. As an individual, if you're modified adjusted gross income is between $25,000 and $34,000, up to 50% of your Social Security benefit could be subject to federal income tax. Over $34,000, 85% of the Social Security benefit you receive during the year could be subject to federal income tax. Married filing jointly between 32 and 44, 50%, and over 44, 85%, potentially eligible or potentially subject to federal income tax. As far as applying for Social Security benefits, you can apply at any time. When you do apply for benefits, if you do it online, you probably won't need to provide a proof of age because we should have that information available. For people born in the United States, generally if you're born in the 40s or 50s, your Social Security number was issued to you at or near birth. So we generally don't require the proof of age. We do ask you for the current W-2 if it's between September and the end of the year. We would ask you to estimate what you think your earnings will be in that year. And if it's in the first of the year, sometimes we do need to see the W-2 just so you can get credit for those additional earnings on a more timely basis. If we do get it in later, we can adjust your benefit if it does make a difference in your monthly benefit amount. The bank information for direct deposit is now required, but not by Social Security, but by the U.S. Treasury. The U.S. Treasury has said that they're not going to issue any paper checks for any Social Security beneficiary who enrolls. I think it's been in effect for 4 years now. So you're going to be required to sign up for direct deposit. If you check the box on the application saying you have no accounts, they'll send you a Direct Express type card. I think it's with Comerica Bank, and you'll have to get your monthly payments out of that with using that Direct Express card. So it's definitely more advantageous for you to go ahead and establish your benefit through direct deposit. If you're filing as a married person, we may need the marriage certificate. If you're filing as a divorced person, we would need the marriage certificate and the final divorce decree to establish that 10-year duration of marriage. In some situations, we'd need some military service proof, but that would only be if it increases your benefit. And the military has been paying into Social Security ever since 1957. One thing I do encourage anyone who was in the military is to put in on the application all periods of military service. If it's more than one, make sure that you state all periods, the date of induction and date of discharge, to make sure that you do get credit for all your contributions while you were in the military. And the last thing is to refer you to our 800 number if you have additional questions or concerns. You didn't get your questions answered here. We do have a 1-800 number open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. It doesn't matter what time zone you're in. It's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So just be aware of those limitations. Usually, I suppose if you're on the East Coast, you'd want to call early in the day because it's not 7 a.m. in the West Coast. And if you're calling from the West Coast, you probably want to call late in the day because the East Coast and the central part of the U.S. are no longer calling in. We do try to answer the phones timely. We do have a lot of people filing for benefits now. Currently, with the baby boomers, over 10,000 people per day are reaching the age of retirement or Medicare and are filing for benefits. So we do encourage you to file online if at all possible. If you use our 800 number, we do have an 800 number service where you could call us in. If you call in and are unable to get through, usually you can leave a number and they'll call you back and they'll give you an estimate of how long they think they'll call you back. But if it's longer than 10 minutes, you might want to call back at a different time, again, early or late in the day, depending on what part of the country you're living in. And the Social Security website is available for you anytime, 24/7, basically. We do updates usually between 2 and 3 a.m. So if you can't sleep one night and want to file for your Social Security retirement benefit and you can't get through, it might be because we're doing updates, but generally our website's available for you anytime, day or night. So that's what I had as far as an overview of the program.
What we want to do now is check and see if we have any questions for you from our audience. So one of your slides indicated that the taxable amount is based on earned income.
There's two different considerations. Usually you're getting a payment on a monthly basis, and it's usually the full payment. So there's no deduction taken out of your payment. But at the end of the year, that's when we give you a 1099. As you work, any additional earnings you have, you will be required to pay Social Security tax, unless, as I mentioned, you have a job that pays you more than $118,500. You stop paying your Social Security tax when you reach that threshold. So most people earning $118,500 or less, they're paying Social Security tax on all their earnings. And that would be present on your Social Security earnings record. It'll show you all your contributions up to the maximum. I have seen people on the Social Security statement where they always contributed the maximum, then for every year they'll have the maximum contribution. Even though they earn $200,000, $300,000, the Social Security tax was only $80,000 or $85,000, or now it's $118,500. But as you work, even if you're receiving Social Security benefits, I've had that question too.
Right.
Even if you're receiving Social Security benefits, if you're still working, you're still paying Social Security tax.
Right.
Now, if that year of additional work and that tax you pay is one of the highest 35 years, then we do a recomputation of your benefit and pay you a higher amount.
I read that. That's good. Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. Is the Social Security benefit stated, I'm assuming in the statement, is it stated in today's dollars or future dollars?
I think they do give some consideration for some inflation. So you can, on the Social Security estimator or retirement estimator, you can say that you want today's dollars rather than future dollars.
Okay, so it's good to use that online calculator.
So I would use that online calculator.
If our income was variable over a period of time and Social Security uses the highest 35 years, are those consecutive years or the largest 35-year amounts over the total time we worked?
So again, your Social Security contributions are for an individual, so you say we, that kind of confuses me.
Okay, right.
It's for each individual person. So your own Social Security earnings record would have all the earnings you had during your working career. If it was 40 years in total, then we'll use all 40 years, index those earnings for inflation, and drop out the 5 low years. So those your low years won't be considered. So if you had a break in earnings for 5 or 10 years, then those earnings where there would be no earnings would be 0 years if you don't have the 35 years to cover it. So in effect, in actuality, I guess it doesn't need to be consecutive. It just needs to be aware that 35 years is what's considered in the computation of the benefit. Mm-hmm. And usually if you had 35 years at the maximum, even if there was a break, you'd still get pretty close to the maximum benefit.
Okay. If you have a year where you made only $200, will that lower your benefit, assuming also that you worked only 24 years?
Well, if you work 24 years, then all 24 years are going to be considered. The $200 will be better than 0,
right.
So it will be considered, but then we'll also average in 9 years of 0 years.
Okay, to get to the 35.
So, and what you could do with that retirement estimator, if you want to see how much difference it would make, is just put in future years. You expect to earn $25,000 for 5 years, and see if it makes any difference. Okay. Maybe it's not worth it for you to go back to work. Your benefit's not going to increase that much.
Right. Okay, that's good input. If I continue working for much lower salary, does that reduce the amount I will get?
And what I can say on that is that your Social Security statement does estimate that you're going to continue working at similar earnings in the future. So if you do have a reduction in salary, then the retirement estimator would be the best thing to use to find out what kind of impact it's going to have if it is going to reduce your benefit. So go to the retirement estimator, say in the 5-10 years in the future, I'm not going to earn what I was earning, but I estimate I'll earn this amount, and you get a more accurate computation of your benefit by using that retirement estimator. It will have an effect because we're using 35 years in the calculation, and the higher the earnings, the better the benefit.
And I'm not sure I'm clear on, it says, does that reduce my amount to have a divorced person? So.
Okay, so if you have a person, if you're married and you're divorced, and your former spouse applies for benefits on your Social Security account, it doesn't reduce your benefit, and if you remarried, it doesn't reduce the benefit of your current spouse.
Right.
So it's a completely separate benefit.
Right.
I've actually taken claims from people who didn't want to tell me about their divorced spouses with the fear that they're going to reduce their benefit if they
Right,
get,
and
but
it's
it has no effect. Has no effect.
Separate. Okay. I'm 58, worked full-time, except 4 years where I was a student or a consultant since 23. At peak, earned $200,000. Now part-time at $20,000 a year from, say, 2014 to 2018. If I return to work in 2018 at age 61 at $60,000 a year, would that adversely impact the retirement benefits?
No, it could only continue to increase your benefit. It would never, because we're using 35 years worth of earnings, it would be used in the calculation of the benefit, and it should increase the benefit.
Right.
Again, it's something you could use the Retirement Estimator for.
The online calculator, great.
Yeah, use those put in those future earnings that you estimate.
Right, and it's the same question again. Does that reduce the amount I will receive if a former spouse receives 50% of my Social Security?
Right.
So it's
former spouse, it doesn't reduce your
nothing.
benefit. If you remarried, your current spouse is also potentially eligible, and it doesn't reduce his or her benefit. Somebody can't hear me.
Okay.
Shut up.
It says, what was the name of the restricted benefit for those who work past their full retirement age? Was it 50% spousal benefit until the worker files for benefits when they elect to retire up until they reach 70?
Okay, so what the restricted application is that once you're, let's say, you had to have been 62 prior to January 2nd of 2016 in order to be eligible for that restricted application. But what it would mean basically is that when you're your full retirement age, if you have a spouse who's receiving benefits on their, or even a former spouse, they're receiving their benefits on their Social Security earnings record. When you're full retirement age, you can restrict your application to spousal benefits only, and then you would be eligible to get 50% of your former spouse's or your current spouse's benefit. You're saving yours until you're 67, 68, 69, or 70, and then you get that higher benefit because you get those delayed retirement credits. So that's kind of what the restricted application is. Again, it's only for people who were 62 prior to January 2nd of 2016.
Right. Does that go for both? Like, what if you're going on to the spouse is younger, that you're claiming on their spousal benefit? Say they're 62. No, you have to be.
Yeah, well, if they were 62 and you were 66, and they filed for their benefits at 62, then you could do it. You could do it.
But the spouse has to be taking their benefits, even if it was prior to full retirement age.
Right.
So if they did start taking it at 62, you could do that. I actually have a client that might be in that situation.
Kind of the one exception to that would be as a divorced spouse. So for the divorced spouse, the former spouse doesn't have to be collecting the benefit for them to receive it, but the former spouse does have to be 62 before they can receive it.
Okay.
But the current spouse, they have to apply and are receiving.
I'm 7 years older than my wife. If I wait until full retirement, will she get half my full retirement benefit when she turns 62?
No, she's potentially eligible for half of your full retirement age benefit, but if she takes it at 62, that 50% is reduced because she took it early.
Right.
It's a further reduction.
So she needs to wait till her full retirement age?
If she wants to get a full 50%, she'd have to wait till her full retirement age. That's correct.
Okay, so if you don't sign up for Medicare Part B at age 65 because you still have health insurance through work, is there still a late penalty when you eventually sign up for Part B?
So that would put you on what you're in. In that case, you're under an employer group health plan at 65. You're covered by that employer group health plan. You don't need the Medicare Part B because you have the employer group health plan. So you enroll in what we call the special enrollment period. So the special enrollment period is when you actually retire. You're no longer covered by the employer group health plan. But if you retire and you have a spouse still working and your spouse has an employer group health plan, you switch over to that plan, you can continue to postpone the Medicare Part B.
Right.
And then when he or she retires, then you would sign up for the Medicare Part B. By the way, there is a 7-month period that you can sign up for Medicare Part B in the special enrollment period. So you have the month of retirement plus 7 months after that in order to enroll for Medicare Part B.
Okay. I am 62 now, and noticed I thought on my last statement that I would earn about $2,700 if I continue making the same income as I do today. I was just laid off. Does that affect my payment at 66 if I don't work or work at a reduced rate until 66?
So you are 62 now. 66 would have given you 4 additional years worth of earnings to use in the computation. If you use the retirement estimator, you could say, well, between 62 and 66, I'm not going to have any additional earnings those 4 years, and it'll give you a more accurate estimate. But I think it won't be that much of a reduction if you do use the retirement estimator.
Okay.
But there'll be some reduction because those would have been years of highest earnings, probably. Yeah.
My spouse is 67 and doesn't have enough Social Security quarterly credits to be eligible for Medicare. I am 61. When can my spouse become eligible for Medicare based on my Social Security quarterly credits, even though I am not considering taking Social Security benefits until I'm 65 or later?
You stumped me there. I would say if your spouse is 67, he or she should have taken it at age 65. I think that they can get credits on your Social Security earnings record, but if for some reason if they didn't file, I could be wrong. But I would definitely have her file for it based on the worker's earnings at 65.
Okay. Do the earnings limits apply to widows' benefits before full retirement age? So they're working.
Yes, that's a good question. So if they're working, yes, that's one of the difficulties about receiving benefits as a surviving spouse is that those earnings that you do have are subject to that earnings test, the maximum of 15,720.
Yeah,
you are subject to that.
Okay.
It's the same thing, right?
Is there any effect to my Social Security benefit if my divorced spouse takes the spousal benefit, if it might be greater?
So again, with the divorced spouse's benefit, your benefit stays the same whether they're receiving benefits on your account or not. We don't even need to let you know because they have to provide the marriage certificate and the final divorce decree, and it has no effect on your benefits. So they would just have to file for it separately.
Right.
Okay.
If I have at least 30 years paid into Social Security, can I expect full benefit in addition to a retirement for being a teacher? Right. So they worked for 30 years in paid Social Security, and then I guess the next 15, 20 years they were a teacher.
Where they didn't contribute to Social Security.
Where they didn't.
Sounds like that's the case. Now there are a lot of states where teachers do pay into Social Security. California is one of those states where they do have the state teachers retirement system and they don't pay into Social Security. So there is a windfall offset provision where the benefits are reduced. One of the exceptions to the offset provision is to have 30 years of what you consider to be substantial earnings under Social Security. This person says that they do have 30 years, but we don't know if they're substantial.
Yeah.
So what the person needs to do is go to the Social Security website, click on benefits and government employee, and then go into the windfall elimination calculator and see if there's any.
Put the numbers in.
Or it does point out what is considered substantial in any 1 year, and you can check it out.
Well, I know I've read that windfall and tried to calculate it, and I would definitely leave it up to Social Security. Now, one thing that I read about that I thought was interesting is that no matter, you're going to get something from Social Security. It might not be very much, but if you paid into Social Security,
right.
I was reading an article that you will get something. Obviously, we need to let Social Security calculate that. But it's not
as
like...
long as you have your 10 years of earnings based on your own work, you will get a benefit from Social Security.
Okay.
It may be reduced because of a federal, city, state, county pension where you didn't pay into it, but you do get a benefit. And in many cases, it's not that much of a reduction.
Okay. Receiving spousal benefits, review receiving spousal benefits before I start receiving my own benefits. I'm 63 and retired now. My spouse is 57 and still working.
So, and if you're 63 now, you'd have to file for benefits on your own account. Your spouse is obviously too young for you to receive anything on their record, and they can't receive anything on your record because they're too young. So,
right.
You'll
So
have
they put the kibosh on those loopholes. That's for sure. What happens to my Social Security disability benefit when I reach the age of retirement?
The benefit continues.
Just continues.
Yeah, continues the
now
same. There'd be no change. You'd only get cost of living increases if there were cost of living increases. The benefit would continue the same.
I filed and suspended, so my wife is getting spousal benefit on my account. I turned 70 in January 2017. When do I notify Social Security to start my benefits?
3 months prior to age 70, but on the application for benefits, you'd want to definitely say that you don't want your benefits to start any earlier than the month you turn age 70. So I have seen people where they file 3 months before and they pay them from the month they applied. And if you don't want you want the maximum benefit, make sure in remarks you say that I don't want my benefit any earlier than the month I turn age 70. That's the maximum benefit payable.
My spouse is older than I am, but their benefits would be small. When can they start collecting on mine? Do I need to retire before they can start collecting?
Well, you need to receive your Social Security benefits before they can start collecting on your account. So if you didn't want to take it at 62, then they couldn't collect on your account.
Okay, so if already have filed and suspended, good for you, will payments automatically start at age 70, or is any further action required to start payments at age 70?
Yeah, I would let Social Security know 3 months prior to age 70 that you want the benefit to start. I don't think it's an automatic action.
I will be pulling money from my IRA and paying tax. How will this affect the tax portion for the Social Security? Nothing. You just file your tax return and
file the tax return with the 1099, and what you pay and receive in Social Security, that's what you receive in Social Security.
Right.
They look at your modified adjusted gross income on the federal income tax return. So I guess there's a certain line in the tax form that.
Well, the adjusted gross income is the last line on the first page of the tax return. But the modified adjusted income, they have to go to the IRS website and research that because there's certain things that you have to add back or you can't deduct or something like that. But the actual adjusted gross income is at the bottom line on the first page of the 1040. But then if they have special situations, that's where the modified part comes in. And they'll have to research that on the IRS website. After you apply online, approximately how long does it take to be approved and then notified?
I found out that you really should apply 3 months prior to the month that you want to start collecting the benefit, even though it shouldn't take us that long to process, just because of the volume of claims that's coming in.
10,000.
It's good to file 3 months in advance. If you do file in the month that you want to start collecting your benefits, when the application is processed, they will pay you retroactive to the month you submitted it, but you might be having to wait a month or two to get your benefits.
That's good to know that it's coming. If self-employed and filing and paying federal taxes, are Social Security payment part of the federal tax? I have not been paying separately into Social Security as a self-employed individual. Is there a problem I need to address?
Well,
I would think so, unless they're not making any money in self-employment.
Unless they're not making any money.
And I certainly have some clients that, unfortunately...
So your net earnings from self-employment should be reported to...
And you pay not only your portion, you're also the employer of your self-employed self.
Right.
So it's double,
It's double. Currently 12.4% for self-employed.
And then you got to add Medicare. Oh, yeah, we love taxes. Is my husband, if my husband is receiving Social Security, he is 77, can I receive the 50% of his also? I will be 65 in October and plan to retire but not collect Social Security now, just Medicare.
So let's say, so she's 60. She's over 62 now. I don't know about her own work history in that case to know if she has some of her own earnings, but for her to get the full 50% on his account, she'd have to be full retirement age, which would be
usually around 66 for everybody now. Yeah, and somebody that's going to be 65 in October, full retirement age would be 66.
66, right.
If older spouse retires at full retirement age, and the younger spouse, who is older than 62, applies for spousal benefits, can that younger spouse then change to their own benefits when they reach full retirement age?
Yeah, no longer. If you file before full retirement age, you have to file for your own benefit first before they'll consider if you can get anything on your spouse's account. Right,
that's where they changed things. How can I find out when my ex-spouse starts collecting Social Security?
Well, like I said, your ex-spouse just has to be age 62 for you to file the application, so you don't need to know if they're receiving benefits or not.
Right.
They just have to be, so you just have to know their date of birth to see if they're 62.
I would say so. Is being legally separated treated differently than being divorced?
Right, it is.
So it's still considered married.
Right.
Okay. If you work 40 years, how many lowest year wages are deducted? Well,
again, we use 5 years, So we use the best 40 years, and those earnings are indexed for inflation, so they may not be consecutive. It would be whatever it works out to be the best 35 years. That's what's used.
Can I claim my ex-spouse if their Social Security would be less than mine?
Yeah, so you could file a spousal claim on divorce spousal claim on your former spouse's Social Security account, and we would pay your own, and then just add on the difference if it's a higher benefit.
Okay. Can a surviving spouse collect on his late spouse's account until the survivor reaches full retirement age?
If you're under full retirement age, you have to file for your own benefit first before we consider that you could get an additional amount on your former spouse's account or your current spouse's account. So there's no longer that restricted application. And even if you did the restricted application, it's only at full retirement age. It's not early.
So it says, I tried to utilize the estimator of your retirement benefits and entered my information and received an error message stating that my information is incorrect. I know that the information, my name, the Social Security number, mother's maiden name is correct.
I would suggest that if you did everything correct and it says it's not correct, then call the 800 number or go into the Social Security office.
Okay.
Because something's not matching.
Right,
yeah.
right. And actually, you didn't mention this, but I thought I heard that they were going to, when opening up those Social Security accounts, they were going to go ahead and text you to your cell phone.
Right.
But they cancel. They now are going to give you a button that says, I don't want to do that.
Well, they kind of backtracked on that now. They tried to give you some additional security by requiring a text-enabled message that you use that code when you want to access your account. It was in place for about 2 weeks, and then it was so unpopular that they stopped it. So it's back to the same way it was.
Okay.
But if you do want to add the added security, and you had a cell phone that you could receive text messages on, you would need your username, password, plus that code. So it would give you some additional security, but it's still optional now.
Okay. But
they say in 6 months they're going to try to devise another way
to make it more security. Yeah. I have read that 2037 Social Security payroll taxes will only cover 76% of scheduled benefits. Will this reduce Social Security payment benefits to folks receiving Social Security?
Again, there were changes back in 1983 when we didn't know how we were going to fund the Social Security well in the future. They made those changes, and the system has been good until 2034. I assume changes will be made so that people won't get a sudden reduction in their benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But if no changes are made, worst case scenario, it would reduce the benefit by 21% is the current estimate if no changes are made. And we could continue to pay that 79% until 2085. So,
Okay.
but I just think they've made changes in the past. They'll make changes again
If
to continue to fund the program.
all right, thanks. If I'm Medicare eligible but don't sign up, does that stop Social Security benefits?
No, they're two separate programs. Yeah, we just get you eligible and we collect the premiums.
Is there a maximum family benefit, individual benefit?
Yeah, there's a maximum family benefit. There's the maximum individual benefit we mentioned, the $2,636 or whatever it was. But there is a family maximum. So generally, if you have a spouse and 2 children getting benefits on the workers' account, that's 3 people getting 50%. That's generally the family maximum.
Okay.
So more children, they just take the same amount of money and divide it into smaller pieces.
Okay. I am 51 and my husband is 57. When he retires, do I have to wait to get 50% benefit? Does it matter whether I am working?
So if you are working and you're uninsured on your own, they'll pay you your own benefit first. If you want the full 50%, you'd have to wait until your
Full retirement age. I'm 84. If my 84-year-old father has been living overseas and chosen not to file for Social Security benefits, can he now?
If he's still living and insured, sure. And I assume he's a U.S. citizen, so I would go to the consulate or embassy in the country where he's living, and they have Social Security specialists
Okay.
that would be able to do the claim.
Well, that's an interesting one. I haven't heard that before. My brother was on Social Security when he passed away. My sister-in-law is 65, but still working for 3 more years. Should she apply for my brother's benefit?
So once she's 66, she's 65 now. So once she's 66, it depends on how much she's earning right now, whether she can file now or not. But once she's 66, she could file for the widow's pension and save her own until she's, say, 70, and then switch over to her own if it's a higher amount.
Yeah.
So she would have that option, but that's only when she reaches full retirement age.
Okay, so that's a good strategy. My wife and I both turned 62 in 2015. Is there any advantage of my wife doing the restricted application for my benefit, my Social Security benefits?
62 in 2015. So one person would have to file for the benefit. The other person could take advantage of the restricted application.
Okay.
Usually the one with the higher benefit would be the one that would want to hold off on their benefits. And then they would file the restricted application to get the lower benefit.
Okay. Can a couple with full 40-year work histories file on both their accounts and their spousal accounts?
No, we only pay the highest benefit payable. So if your own benefit's higher than the 50% you get on your spouse's account, you only get your own account, own benefit. And also, as a widow or widower, if your benefit was the higher benefit and the spouse with the lower benefit passes away first, then you don't get anything on their account. You just continue with your own higher benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if the spouse with the lower benefit survives the one with the higher benefit, then they would file a widow's or widower's application, and they get that higher benefit, but the lower benefit would stop.
Okay.
So again, we only pay the highest benefit payable.
So this is why is it good to file and suspend benefits? Why not just wait to file? Well, there are no more file and suspend.
There's no more file and suspend.
So it doesn't matter. The government took care of that for you. Do nothing, Congress.
Sorry about that.
They did it. I want to thank First Tax IT Group, wow, and special thanks to Rob Pepper for taking his evening out, and then thanks to Kurt Gown for setting up all the advertising and the IT setup. Again, as I said earlier, the links to the slide presentation and the audio will be made available. Again, thanks to Kurt and First Tech. And lastly, if you go to the hpalumni.com website and under contacts, there's a list of all the volunteers and their responsibilities that make HP Alumni such a valuable member to your personal network.
If you know someone who's leaving or has recently left, HP, HP Inc., or Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, our website has a checklist developed by HPA members of things they need to do as soon as they know they are leaving and in the following few weeks. We're at hpalumni.com.